My name is Jackie Hill, and I'm the instruction librarian at Moy Library. This PowerPoint presentation is designed to educate you about what constitutes plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarizing. The tutorial was created by Dr. Brian Jacobs as an outgrowth of a study conducted by him and Thomas D. The study concluded that students often plagiarize because they are unaware of what constitutes plagiarism. The goal of this tutorial, therefore, is to school you on the four types of plagiarism and on techniques to eliminate even a hint of plagiarism in your academic work. Plagiarize comes from a Latin word which means to kidnap. As a member of the academic community of the University of Mount Olive, you are a part of a group that takes academic integrity or honesty quite seriously. By becoming a member of this community, you are agreeing to abide by the guidelines of academic integrity, one of which is to not plagiarize. An understanding of the four types of plagiarism is crucial to your success as part of the academic community. The first type of plagiarism is direct plagiarism. This type of plagiarism entails copying word for word a passage of text written by someone else and passing that text off as your own. Word processing, full text databases, and web pages make this type of plagiarism quite tempting. Here is an example of direct plagiarism. Notice that student writer A has copied a part of a sentence from the source. Even though the student writer has copied a relatively short passage of text, this word-for-word copying with no quotation marks or citations constitutes direct plagiarism. In the second example of direct plagiarism, the vocabulary and phrasing of words makes this plagiarism quite easy to spot. Most direct plagiarism done by student writers is quite easy to detect because the copied text is often written in such a different style than the student's style of writing. And the source material often contains more sophisticated vocabulary and phrasing than a student might use. Notice particularly the words innumerable, predestined, and the phrase lay up a store. Paraphrasing is one way to eliminate plagiarism. Paraphrasing simply means rewriting a portion of text in different words than the original. You might think of it as putting the material in your own words. Let's look at the same text we've just examined, paraphrased by the student writer. The student has handily worked the author's name into the paraphrase, used vocabulary more fitting to a student writer, and given attribution for the ideas in the citation. Notice the quotation marks around the student's paraphrase is to show that the student writing has been copied and reproduced here. A second type of plagiarism is self-plagiarism. This type of plagiarism occurs when a student submits work he or she has done previously for another class without getting permission to do so from both professors. Students often commit self-plagiarism when they turn in the same piece of work in two different classes. This practice is academically dishonest unless both professors agree to accept the same piece of work, or work that has previously been submitted for a grade in another class. Mosaic plagiarism is probably the type of plagiarism to which most students fall prey. Think about a mosaic in art. It's a design made up by piecing together small bits of glass or stone. While writing, if a student copies selected vocabulary or keywords and mimics sentence structure from another writer, then he or she has committed mosaic plagiarism. Here's an example. Concentrate on the text in yellow. Look at the source and then the text written by the student writer. Instead of the phrase, all these friendly Indians, the writer substituted, all these friendly Sioux. They kept the phrase, suddenly plunged, and the writer kept the word conditions. The student has basically copied the phrase, all these friendly Indians were suddenly plunged. The student writer used key words from the original and the basic sentence structure of the original text. Therefore, the student is guilty of plagiarism. The student written text too closely resembles the original to be considered a paraphrase. Here's another example. In this example, concentrate on the phrases in white. The student writer has taken a phrase word for word, but omitted a part of the phrase without showing with an ellipsis that part of the quote has been omitted. To be done correctly, this phrase should have been put in quotation marks and an ellipsis, or three little dots, inserted to show the reader what words had been omitted from the text. In this third example of mosaic plagiarism, pay attention to the section in yellow. Again, the writer has borrowed a phrase from the source, seen here at the bottom, almost word for word. The original reads, contrast the condition into which all these friendly Indians are suddenly plunged now, with their condition only 2 years previous. Martial law now in force on all their reservations, themselves in danger of starvation, and constantly exposed to the influence of emissaries from their friends and relations, urging them to join in fighting this treacherous government that had kept faith with nobody, neither with friend nor with foe. And the borrowed phrase by student writer B reads, only 2 years later, all these friendly Sioux were suddenly plunged into new conditions, including starvation, martial law on all their reservations, and constant urging by their friends and relations to join in warfare against the treacherous government that had kept faith with neither friend nor foe. It's easy to hear how much the student writer has duplicated the original with just a few minor changes. What the student writer has written or borrowed in this case does not count as a paraphrase. There is no citation to acknowledge the source, nor is there a paraphrase or rewriting of the text in different words. Let's put these 3 examples of mosaic plagiarism that we have just examined together to see how the student writer could have paraphrased effectively. Here is the student text. Conditions on the Sioux reservations had deteriorated seriously within that 2-year period. Food shortages were severe, the reservations were under martial law, and there was constant pressure to join friends and relations in armed rebellion against the government. You can hear how the student writer has taken the ideas from the original without copying key words and sentence structure, and he or she has included a citation to give credit to the original source. The final type of plagiarism is accidental plagiarism. And just as it sounds, this is plagiarism which the student did not intend to commit. Things like not including a citation, unintentionally copying keywords or phrases, or even misquoting can all constitute accidental plagiarism. However, even though the student inadvertently plagiarizes, he or she is still in danger of facing disciplinary action because of the offense. How can a student make sure he or she avoids plagiarism? There are 4 types of conditions or errors that make students susceptible to plagiarism. Eliminating these 4 errors will put you well on your way to being free of plagiarism. The first condition which invites plagiarism is procrastination. When students put assignments off until the last minute, it's so easy to lose track of where the information came from or if the information is paraphrased or copied. It's imperative to give yourself enough time to work on a research assignment so that you can start making your works cited and references page from the beginning of the project. If you're using ready-made citations from a database like NC Live, capture those citations as soon as you find the sources you want to use. Error 2, incomplete understanding of the source material. If a student does not understand the text he or she is trying to paraphrase, then often plagiarism occurs. If you can't restate the main idea of a piece of text without looking at the original, then don't use it. Or use these strategies to help you understand it. Read the original text until you are sure of the meaning. That includes looking up the definitions of words you don't understand, or possibly getting your professor or a librarian to help you with the meaning. Then, without looking at the original, state the main idea. Then, again without looking at the original text, write your paraphrase. Since you are not looking at the original text when you are writing your paraphrase, the chances of your copying key words or the structure of the original sentences is less likely. Error 3, citation mistakes. This error goes back to the idea of giving yourself plenty of time to complete the assignment. Then you are less likely to fail to give attribution to borrowed material, to forget to put quotation marks around a quoted passage, or to use the wrong citation format. Poor note-taking can lead to plagiarism. You must develop a system at the beginning of your research to identify what information came from what source. You must also keep accurate records of what material is quoted and what material is paraphrased. You should choose the organizational method that works best for you. That may be keeping your notes and sources in order electronically or with pen, paper, or note cards. These 4 errors, procrastination, not understanding the original source material, citation mistakes, and poor note taking, can set a student up for failure and should be avoided at all costs. Now that we've discussed the 4 types of plagiarism and the 4 conditions or errors that can lead to plagiarism, let's take a look at the UMO catalog and see what it has to say about plagiarism and academic integrity. The beginning of the policy reads, "The University of Mount Olive expects all members of the university community to behave honestly, to respect the intellectual property of others, and to follow the University of Mount Olive covenant. Any form of academic cheating, including plagiarism, is intellectually dishonest and will not be tolerated." The policy then goes on to define what is considered to be cheating. Then the policy goes on to discuss plagiarism in detail, including the definition, the stealing of another's work, returning us to the idea we discussed at the beginning of the tutorial about kidnapping another's intellectual property. The following statement is underlined to indicate its importance. Plagiarism is the most egregious form of cheating. In other words, the University of Mount Olive considers plagiarism the worst, most shockingly bad form of cheating. Then the policy lists examples of what it considers to be plagiarism, most of which we have discussed in this tutorial, and then the policy lists in detail the sanctions or penalties for committing plagiarism. The sanctions range from being reported to the Vice President of Academic Affairs to being expelled from the university, depending on the number of incidents of plagiarism. The policy also details the recourse for students if they think they have been unjustly accused of plagiarism and want to appeal their case. Please take a few moments to read this academic integrity policy in its entirety. I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. If you have further questions about plagiarism, please see your instructor or a librarian. Thank you for listening.